evening. I will call to order a Wilsonville City Council meeting for September 21, 2020 at 08 p.m. and request a roll call, please.
Councillor Linville.
Here.
Councillor West.
Here.
Council President Ackerval.
Here.
Mayor Knapp.
Here.
And Councillor Lehan is excused.
Thank you very much. Could we have the staff lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Oh, you did, okay. Oh, she put it in the, okay, so you should have it. Did you just put it in her binder?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, it's in the
Sorry,
binder?
Mayor. We just have some procedural stuff we were working on here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
And thank you very much. Council, I'm open to a motion on order of agenda.
Your Honor, I move to approve the order of agenda.
Thank you. Motion by Councillor West. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councillor President Ackerval. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. I have unanimous, so 4 in favor tonight. Okay. Mayor's business, upcoming meetings. Well, I was doing lots of things, but not looking at my upcoming meetings here, so. Well, there's several things in flux. I don't have too many upcoming meetings of significance other than the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium later this week, and there looks like we have a county, Clackamas County Mayors and Chairs group get together also. We had the Washington County Coordinating Committee meeting this past week, and we spent quite a bit of time on the housing stuff that pertain to House Bill 2001 and 2003 that we talked about in work session. Cities all across the counties are working to understand, what the implications of that legislation are and how it affects them specifically. We've had quite a bit of discussion in trying to influence the rulemaking that is presently going on that pertains to that legislation. And those of us cities who have been involved in urban growth boundary expansions like Beaverton and Hillsborough and King City and us specifically have been encouraging some slightly different perspective for those new growth areas than what would have normally been considered for infill development within the urban area like downtown Portland. And we're still hoping to see some additional flexibility given those different scenarios. We'll have to see how the outcome of that rulemaking goes. But that's a pretty major piece that's going on right now. Will have a lot of effect. And again, where it pays us to stay engaged at the state level as well as at the metro regional level and working with our partners across 2 counties. So lots of things going on that way. I think that is sufficient for this point. We don't have any formal communications listed tonight. Mr. Cosgrove, anybody on the phone?
Yes.
We do have one person on the phone, 2 people on the phone for public comment. Who do you got first?
Okay, not pertaining to specific issues.
Andrew Engel.
This is under public comment. Is that what you're asking, Mayor?
Hello.
Citizen input, move it.
Yes, I'm sorry. Is this general comment or is this pertaining to a piece of business tonight?
Oh, it should be citizen comment, but if it's not a public hearing, they can still comment on any agenda item during public comment. So do we know what they're here to talk about?
I do not.
Okay, we don't know, Mayor, so we're just going to cue this person in and they can tell you what they came to tell. Okay?
Go ahead, Andrew. Oh,
Did you lose him?
I think. He muted himself.
Ask for citizen input first.
Eric.
That's
Hold
what
on.
we're doing.
I know, I think he was still on communication.
No, we moved past communication.
Andrew, can you hear us?
Can't hear the mayor.
The mayor's still.
Did we lose our phone again?
Looks like it. Hang on, we're having technical difficulties. Give us a couple seconds here, sorry. We're having issues with our phone.
Yeah, they're probably all talking.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. You have entered the meeting as a panelist. Attendees can now hear you speak.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now?
Hold on, we're muted. Okay, now.
Can you hear us now? Okay, I think we're back in
I can hear you now,
I
yeah.
can hear you. Progress.
All right.
All right, Andrew, did you want to speak?
We're trying to-
Oh,
We have 2 speakers under public comment, citizen input, Mayor. And I don't know exactly what the
All right,
issues
very
are.
good.
Okay,
Please proceed with that.
thank you. Andrew?
Yes, is this on?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Knapp, President Akval, council members. 2020 has been a hard year for many people. We've had obviously the personal loss of the pandemic for many, and even more widespread, the economic disruption. So I'm here to ask if you can help those facing eviction during that hardship to find the resources they need. So in August, our latest numbers were that unemployment was still at 10% in Clackamas County and 11% in the greater metro area. That's been for months now. That's impacting everyone, but that's especially concentrated among our neighbors who earn lower wages, who have lower education levels, or of our Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other minority communities. And many of those folks have also not been able to receive their full unemployment benefits due to the state backlog. That puts them at housing risk. And I'm concerned that that housing risk is going to escalate into a full-blown crisis by the end of the year. There's been some help from the state and national government. Oregon has a legislative moratorium that extends through September 30th on rental evictions, and an executive moratorium on foreclosure evictions through December 31st. The CDC also published a rule providing relief through December 31st, but a lot of renters are unsure of that, how to use that rule. Maybe they're not even aware of it. How big is this problem? It could be very large. We just don't know. Some national studies estimate maybe 40 million Americans across the country could be at risk. That estimate that I saw indicated maybe 30% of Oregon's renter households could be at risk of a rental eviction without some form of important assistance. I don't know how many households that is in Wilsonville. We just don't know, but we need to measure it. It could be within the hundreds of households facing this crisis. Without local focused actions, those moratoriums are just a delay. We need to get ahead of this as a community and figure out what our response is going to be and get information to those households about how they can react to this and what kind of resources are available. So earlier this year, you had the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan approved with the goal of making Wilsonville more equitable and more affordable. And one of the goals of that plan was reducing displacement. I know that plan wasn't for a crisis time, but you can't reverse evictions, and that's a crisis. That displacement crisis may be upon us soon. So what I would ask you to do, there's an action plan in there, 1E, to facilitate connections to partners in housing resources through city liaison. I think that would be an excellent plank for you to act on as a matter of urgency if that is possible. I would ask that you put your available resources to study and understand how many and how severely Wilsonville residents are at risk of eviction due to this crisis. I would ask you to also fulfill that liaison role in an expedited manner so that you can provide Wilsonville residents the necessary information and connections to some of our community resources, such as the Clackamas County Housing Services or the Oregon Housing Authority. And I would ask that you do that, especially as a humanitarian issue and as a social equity issue, as those that already struggle are just going to be set even further back by this issue. So I appreciate your time, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. We'll have to have some further discussion at some point here on those topics. I am quite confident. We have another speaker.
Yes, Garrett Pryor.
Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, and we can see you also.
Oh, excellent. Well, good evening, Council and Mayor. Tonight I'm here to talk about moving the discussion forward on an equity committee for the city. So on June 15th, you took the historic action of approving the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan. And the call for an equity committee was not only supported by you all, but the Wilsonville Alliance, the Chamber, and the Home Builders Association. So we had a really broad swath of community behind that specific call. And I know there have been some conversations about police oversight that have been going really well with the community members and city government and the sheriff's office. But our other important items of housing, transportation, just kind of the other equity items and systems, as well as celebration and outreach. I haven't heard much movement on that. And so I put together some of my research and what I've learned and sent it on to you all. There's really 5 key items: scope, group diversity, decision-making power, management structure, and resources that we want to nail down to really help answer a lot of the questions that first came up from you all. Good questions when we were talking about this topic. And so I proposed kind of a few options from that. I chose my Bud Light, Bud Select, and Budweiser options as, it's not as popular as people maybe had once thought it. I thought that was going to get a little more action. But I think something like that, coming up with some proposed options, working with our wonderful city manager and staff, I would love to see that in October or in November, one of your council agendas. And so we can get that in place. So in addition to, one of your agenda items is a project to do outreach for the HB 2001 code implementation. And I think it's good to have project outreach, and we always will, but until we have some kind of systemic piece put in place, a long-term committee to help that, we're really going to be missing the mark, and we're going to be burning and extending a lot of resources with each project to kind of recreate that than if we had a committee in place where we could work on longer-term relationships. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cosgrove, do you want to have any comment on those pieces of input that are asking for certain actions at the city level?
Sure. We have actually had several conversations about this. We've had meetings that I think he mentioned the CARES committee. They've been involved in our discussion. So there is a lot of discussion in the background about what the best approach is in terms of a standing committee with the city. So where we're at right now is I'm having Zoe do a best practice research of International City Managers Association and League of Oregon Cities, reach out to other cities in Oregon that have formed these committees. So what I'd like to bring to you in the near future, I think what I want to do is I want us to have this community conversation before we make any recommendations. I think we don't want to presume what the community wants. I think we need to listen more than trying to design something right now because we think we know what the community wants. I think it would be best to kind of parallel track these things, start doing the research now about what kinds of committees exist out there in the universe, which have most parallels to our community, so that when the community has this conversation and says these are the things that are important for us, then we have that information and we can turn on a dime in terms of forming that committee. So what I'm proposing is that we do that research, but we don't make any proposals to you until we have this community dialogue that we're scheduling for sometime in the very near future, in probably mid-4th quarter. We got a lot of outreach we need to do. We need to figure out who the facilitator is going to be, and then we need to lock down who's going to be on the panel. We want to make sure we have school district representation. We'll want to reach out to our state rep because there's going to be, you know, state issues involved as well. So there's a lot of planning that needs to go into this. It's a long way of saying, yes, we are doing the things that Mr. Pryor is suggesting we need to do, even though he hasn't been directly involved in those conversations. I want to assure him and the rest of the community that we are moving in that direction. But we want to make sure that we're being informed by the community before we assume we know what it is the community wants. So I would think that we would have a recommendation to council somewhere toward the end of the 4th quarter of this year or the 1st quarter of 2021. But I do think that dialogue with the community is critical to informing your decision making.
Yeah, so there's a lot of preparatory work being done, and I know it's sometimes frustrating. People can't see the outcome yet, but we are moving in that direction and trying to do it in a responsible way. Can you comment anything on the idea about a standing housing committee and that piece that came out of the equitable housing strategy? Well,
I think there's so many things that we need to be doing as a city in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that I really think it needs to have an umbrella committee so that you're not forming a committee for every specific issue that comes up that touches on those various issues. I think we need to have kind of a centralized approach to this where we can put all these plans through a process where they go before that committee and we're looking at it with a critical eye. So what I'm suggesting is that we not have like a Citizens Police Advisory Committee, you know, in a vacuum, or an equitable housing committee in a vacuum. I think it all needs to be centralized and kind of focused on this one committee where you could have a diversity of interest, but everybody's kind of looking at things with that lens. But you're not standing up a specific committee every time you have an issue that comes up in the community.
Yeah. Okay, I think that helps us with perspective. I appreciate that. I think it's also true, however painful it is, that our little city doesn't have the resources to invest in everybody that is in trouble economically at this point in time. We have not received significant funding from the federal government or from the state government other than reimbursement of some already incurred expenses. We are participating in and are aware of the discussions going on at the state level about eviction process. And I think that there is more that's going to have to happen at those levels before we can really be credible. We are issuing information updates regularly on our city website, and anyone that has needs is certainly encouraged to take a look at the resources that are listed there, which we're trying to stay abreast of resources available to the public. And hopefully are reaching some of the public and their needs with that information. There's always more that we can do, and we will try to keep expanding that information availability.
Yeah, can I
don't know.
also make one other point on the rental assistance issue or
Yeah.
the eviction stuff?
Yeah.
I just want to let people know that may be interested in that subject, that if you are someone who's impacted by the economy and it's struggling to pay rent, we do have a relationship with Wilsonville Community Sharing. We have provided them resources to help folks out on a one-time basis. If they're in that condition, they should contact Wilsonville Community Sharing and have that discussion. On top of that, we are pushing out information. When we get it from the state or federal government, we'll continue to do that. Doesn't mean we can't do more, can't provide more information, so I'll have that discussion with my public affairs manager, Mr. Evans, and we'll see if there's more we can do on that subject. And I wanted Mr. Pryor to know that I did receive his input. We will incorporate that into our research as well, so we'll use the information that he's provided as well.
Very good. All right, thank you for that, and thank you for the work that's underway.
Yeah.
Your Honor, there may be a few more people that have some citizen input. So if there are any attendees that would like to provide citizen input at this time, will you use the Zoom raise hand feature to let me know you'd like to speak?
We have 2 chats in there. What are those?
That was from when they couldn't hear us earlier.
Oh, okay. All right.
Doesn't look like it, so.
We have no more public comment? Okay. Apparently, we have no more public comment,
Okay.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the confusion on the public input. Glad we were able to hear it all, though. That brings us then to councilor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements. And I will ask Council President Ackerval to lead us off.
Thank you. Yes, this last week I was able to attend an event with Clackamas Workforce Partnership, the event, the No Small Matter, showing of the video and panel discussion that followed that was all about childcare needs, both in our community and in our larger society. And I found that to be a very good, especially the panel discussion, a very good discussion. I also tuned into the LOC, their statewide call, this last Friday on the 18th. There's, of course, I mean, we all know there's been a lot of stuff going on in the state, and so that was a beneficial call to tune into, and heard from the Oregon Emergency Management Office, as well as representatives from FEMA. And one thing that I took from the call that I thought I could share that might be helpful for our community members as well was online resources for continued information. I know, you know, we're all happy that our air quality has gotten so much better in the last few days here in Wilsonville, but there's definitely people that are being affected in other parts of the state, and it's still a very serious situation for many. And so one website is wildfire.oregon.gov that they recommended people check out for continued information. As well as the Oregon Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, which was a website that people can go to that would like to provide assistance to so many that are struggling right now. And that website is www.orvoad.org. And the final website kind of resource that was brought up, I believe, was the OregonRecoversCommunityOS.org, which had information, again, on ways that people can donate time, resources, volunteer, and to have that kind of go through the coordinated emergency management response process that's in place. So those were good resources to hear from, and also kind of hear from some partners around the state what's going on right now for them. Going forward this coming week, I will be participating in a call with the Willamette Intake Facilities Commission is doing some work on establishing mission, vision, values, and goals. And so I will be participating in a meeting for that this coming week. And the final thing I wanted to draw attention to is actually with our school district, but some people may be aware that there's been some changes with the delivery of school meals that many in our community are able to take advantage of and find as a helpful resource. And the school district website has information on this, but I'd encourage people to check it out. And they're actually going to be delivering meals to locations within the city via bus. Instead of having everyone come to the school site in the middle of the day to collect the meals, it will be kind of dispersed throughout the community. So I understand the route, the bus route may be changing over time. So as they are able to zero in on where the needs are and what the needs are. So definitely check that out so you know what's going on and what you can expect and where people can find assistance. And that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councilor West is next up.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just want to give a shout out, use my time to give a shout out to what Wilsonville citizens did during this fire crisis, the wildfire crisis. I got a chance to interact with Laura LaJoy with Joy Chiropractic. She had a number of high school students that stepped up quickly and got a number of resources available to people in the region that needed it. And then they drove with John Badial all over the state, giving people items and people, the frontline workers, the things that they need, and they really stepped up. Part of the city continues to step up. They stepped up and continued to during the pandemic, the political unrest. Also, they had a big drive to help people with wildfires. Were amazing. A really great story just outside city limits is Frog Pond Farms housed 150 animals that needed a place to go because they were dislocated from their farms. And then I think they also took in 7 families at Frog Pond Farms just down the road from us. So I know that we are all thankful to be able to see some sunshine and to be able to breathe fresh air. And I mean, I remember when I first saw the rain coming down, probably you guys, I ran outside. It was like, it's raining, it's raining. So I'm really proud of our city, the way they stepped up. People in the region have stepped up and continue to step up in crisis and find ways to take care of one another and take care of our neighbors. So that was really great to see. And I want to give big kudos to our citizens who have big hearts and made sure that they were finding ways to help those that were in the biggest need of all. So that's all I have. I don't have anything, any meetings to report or anything, but I wanted to take that time just to give those guys a thumbs up.
Thank you very much. I have to admit, I did not run out at 3 o'clock a.m. when the thunder rolled and the rain started coming down. I stayed warm in bed. So.
It was the morning one. It was the morning showers. I was asleep. I didn't hear the thunder. It was the morning showers.
All right. Councilor Linville.
Well, I just needed to announce that the French Prairie Forum this past week was canceled, so our next meeting will be in October. I believe it's the 12th of October. And I just wanted to do a little follow-up on Mr. Engel's comments, because we will not meet again until after the state moratorium on rental eviction happens. And the governor has extended the foreclosure moratorium until December 31st, but specifically did not do anything about renters. And that was because on the 4th of September, the CDC extended a moratorium on evictions that was published in the Federal Register, it was published in the Federal Register, the guidelines on the 4th of September. And we will not meet again until that deadline happens. And the one thing I guess I just wanted to emphasize is published in those guidelines in the Federal Register on that date is a form that tenants, lessees, and residents of residential properties can use with their landlord to negotiate an agreement to not be evicted. And if they don't do that negotiation, then they are subject to eviction. And it seems to me that with the work that our economic development staff is doing around some of the other CARES works, if we could, as a city, work with community sharing somehow to assist or at least have a centralized place where some of those tenants can at least get the information about the form, about how they can negotiate with their landlord. It doesn't relieve them of any of the responsibility to pay their rent, but it does allow them an agreement that is under federal regulation for both the property owner and the renter to work it out so they don't get evicted. And I think if we could do something along those lines, just as a stopgap for assisting and providing information, or even if our public information folks could get that information published out on the website, and we had community sharing being the organization that might be able to provide them assistance, I think that would be really helpful. We certainly don't want people evicted, and they will continue to get their rent payments will still continue to accrue through all of this time. But I think for an individual, it's like $99,000. If they make less than that as an individual, they're eligible to work out this arrangement with their landlord. And I think that would be a good city service for us to help stem at least the eviction through the end of the year. And then I just wanted to add my encouragement and thank you to our city manager in the work that he's doing with the community around our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I just wanted to re-emphasize that at our June meeting, when we approved the equitable housing strategic plan, we also approved a motion to our city leadership to look at those models that are related to DEI and housing. And I think Councilor Ackerval brought that up a little bit earlier. So as we do this work, I'm just wanting to keep that out in the front as well. And I agree with what our city manager said. We don't want to have committees that are doing, silo work, but we need to be looking at some of these in a larger context. I just don't want the urgency and the work that is being done around the equity, inclusion, and the diversity, equity, and inclusion as it relates to community policing to overshadow that we have other issues as well. So good to just keep that out in front. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cosgrove, do you think that staff could coordinate with Councilor Linville on the specific idea about being sure people have that paperwork and process available to them if they think it meets their needs?
I think I'll just have Bill Evans reach out to Councilor Linville and see what we can, in terms of outreach, what we can get out there, how best to get it out, and definitely coordinating with Wilsonville Community Sharing, for sure. Yes.
That sounds real good. And it is fairly urgent time-wise is the message that I'm hearing also.
I believe that to be true.
Okay, sounds good. All right, why don't we move forward into our consent agenda, some actual business. We have quite an extensive consent agenda, and I think that the last item was something staff was going to clarify for us. So if you've got that on your list, please go ahead.
Resolution number 2836, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with North Star Electric Contractors, Inc. To construct CIP 4722 LED street light conversion Phase 1 project. Resolution number 2850, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to extend an existing personal services agreement contract with Murray Smith Associates for the design and construction oversight of CIP 4722 LED streetlight conversion Phase 1 project. Resolution number 2845, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a personal services agreement contract with Tetra Tech for development of the city's water system risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan as required by the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. Resolution 2846, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the sole source selection of the backyard habitat certification program for fiscal year 2020-21 through fiscal year 22-23. Resolution number 2847, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the sole source selection of Friends of Trees for fiscal year 2021 through fiscal year 2022-23. Minutes of the May 6, 2019 City Council meeting.
Did we get that last item clarified?
Yes, it's fixed in the minutes.
Okay. Council, what is your pleasure with regard to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items that have been read on consent? Councilor President Ackerval.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilor President Ackerval, second by Councilor Linville. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 4-0 and is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, that gets us into our next item up, which is continuing business on ordinance number 844. This is a public hearing, is that correct?
Oh, we have one item under new business, Mayor. Resolution 2843.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I skipped over it. All right, let's do new business resolution 2843.
Resolution number 2843, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services contract with Angelo Planning Group, Inc. for the Middle Housing in Wilsonville project.
And I'm looking in my packet to try to find it. I got 2845 on the agenda, 2846, 2836.
It should be, it's the only item under new business in your packet. So I have a hard copy packet. It's the only item under.
2843.
And in my packet.
Resolution number 28.
Yes.
Here we go.
There you
Page 246 of 417.
Yes. There you go. Mr. Pauly is here to present the staff report.
Staff presentation. This is not a public hearing.
No.
Okay. Mr. Pauly, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So following up on work session, this supports our compliance with House Bill 2001, which again, we have two options: to go with the model code or develop specific Wilsonville code that helps the city comply with the legislation. And we're pursuing the Wilsonville option. But beyond complying with the legislation from House Bill 2001, this also aims to go beyond in support of the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan and all the housing work we're doing. So this is a $125,000 contract. The funds for the contract include $95,000 that we were awarded from the state, from money the legislature budgeted for cities to do this work. The remainder comes from funds that were authorized for this specific purpose in this year's budget. So we received a total of 4 proposals, and the staff selected team looked through them and landed on a team led by Angelo Planning Group with the support of Sarah Architects and Eco Northwest. The proposal was very much on point, well tailored to the project, and showed a great understanding of what we were trying to do. Angelo Planning Group has experience in Wilsonville, including the Frog Pond West Master Plan and the Frog Pond Concept Planning. They have also been heavily involved in the statewide rulemaking, and so have a good understanding of that, and provide a very strong project manager, and we think will really do a great job. Also, their subcontract, Sarah Architects and Eco Northwest, are also familiar with Wilsonville and will provide great support. And we really look forward to working with this team and doing this important work, and are available for any questions on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, any questions for staff? Mr. Pauly or others, if needed, on this item? We had discussion quite a bit in work session, so I think maybe we're up to speed on this. I'm seeing no indication. Oh, Councilor Linville? No?
Oh, I don't have any comments. I'm just ready to make a motion if you'd like one, Your Honor.
All right.
And if I could, Mayor, I just want to note before we move on that on the next agenda item, Mr. Bradford, I sent him home, but I'm here to answer any questions there are on that item as well.
Okay, thank you. So, Council, what is your pleasure with regard to Resolution 2843? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move approval of resolution number 2843.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Akval.
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Akval. Discussion? Councilor Akval.
Just that I look forward to the city doing this work because I think it's important work. I'm happy that we have some grants to support our efforts in this area, and I think it's important that we bring the community into the discussion and dialogue, and those grants specifically are aimed to accomplish that. So that will be a good thing that will benefit the city.
Thank you. Other comments? I guess I would say, just in the way of a comment, is been thinking as I near the end of my term here, how complex our relationships are across all the different agencies that have an influence on what we are able to do in Wilsonville. And the grants that come with some of the requirements or help us meet some of the requirements for planning, I think that we have a great track record of using productively and using in ways that enable us to find the correct path for Wilsonville in functioning within the standards that have to be met, but doing it in a way that is appropriate and advantageous to our community. And I just hope that we continue on that pathway. Continuing down that pathway means we have to utilize the experience, we have to maintain the relationships with those other agencies and governments, and continue to find our own way forward, but doing it within that broader context and with those other partners. So I'm glad to see us doing this. Councilor Linville?
I just wanted to just ask Mr. Pauly one more question, and that is, I know that this work is going to have an impact on planning for Frog Pond East and South. And we also have a planning grant for doing master planning in that area. Will they run concurrently, or will the planning grant be done sooner than this work will be done? And how, if that's the case, how will these new codes then fit into what the master planning is going to be for Frog Pond East and South?
Thank you for that question. So this project will be wrapping up before we get to the point where really we're looking at code implementation for Frog Pond East and South. We received grants for them about the same time, but actually we won't be kicking Frog Pond East and South off. There'll be some of it running together, but generally the idea is that it will follow immediately as we finish up this project. And the code, the middle housing code we come up with in this project will then roll into Frog Pond East and South as well.
Okay, other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote on the motion to adopt Resolution 2843. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
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 It looks unanimous. We have 4 in favor. Thank you very much. Mr. Pauly, there is your next step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Beth and Kim, do we have anybody on the phone?
Not for the second reading. No.
Not for the second reading?
The public hearing's closed on that one, so we can just do the second reading.
Just wanted to make sure. I can read these two.
All right, so we are.
Yeah. They just have to vote on it separately.
We closed the public hearing already on these?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anybody on the phone anyway, just because I'm going to suggest, knowing how much you loved reading this script, that I put these two together and you just read one script. How does that sound?
Well, we don't need any, not for the second reading, we just need to do the second readings. For item, or ordinance 842 and 43, we have to do a public hearing. All we're doing on 44 and 45 is second readings.
Okay, just nothing to read.
Second reading, right. Got it.
All right, I'll read both of them and then we'll vote separately, or you'll vote separately. Ordinance number 844 on second reading, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville annexing approximately 5.85 acres of property located on the south side of Southwest Clutter Street, just west of Southwest Garden Acres Road, into the city limits of the City of Wilsonville, Oregon. The land is more particularly described as tax lot 2100, section 3D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Washington County, Oregon. Chris and Sonia Bickford, petitioners. Ordinance number 845 on second reading, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville approving a zone map amendment from the Washington County Future Development 20-acre zone to the planned development industrial regionally significant industrial zone on approximately 5.85 acres on the south side of Southwest Clutter Street, just west of Southwest Garden Acres Road. The land is more particularly described as tax lot 2100, section 3D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Washington County, Oregon. Panatone Development Company, Inc., applicant. Okay.
Okay. And so the regular questions, any additional input since we last considered this on first reading?
Nothing has come into the legal department.
Nothing in my office.
And nothing from planning.
All right, thank you very much. So we will need to vote separately on these two items. Is there, well, we can discuss after there's a motion if there's need for discussion. So the first one, ordinance number 844, as has been read, is the annexation ordinance. Is there a motion? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 844 on second reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor West seconds. So we have a motion and a second on second reading. Is there discussion? Anybody? Councilor President Ackerval.
I'll throw something out there. We were pretty quiet about this agenda item in our last meeting as well, but it is an exciting step, right? And so I guess I just want to make a comment to acknowledge that, that this is an exciting step, and it will be good to see how this project does going through the new, the form-based code for the area, and so there is, movement, I guess, to celebrate in this matter. So,
right. This is our Coffee Creek industrial area that we have been working on to move it toward employment, good jobs, and investment in our community. And it is always nice to see that starting to happen.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else? If we're ready, if we're not still asking questions, I guess we're maybe ready to vote, and we will need a roll call vote on the motion on ordinance number 842. So may I ask for that roll call vote, please?
844, Your Honor.
844. Ordinance 844.
844, yes.
Councilor Linville?
Yes.
Councilor West?
Yes.
Councilor Ackerval?
Yes.
Mayor Knapp?
Yes. So it passes unanimously, 4 in favor. Then the second half of this is ordinance number 845, which is the zone map amendment pertaining to the same project. Is there a motion on ordinance number 845 on second reading? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 845 on second reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor West. Thank you very much. Any discussion? This conforms the zone map to the plan and the annexation that we've just approved. I'll ask for a roll call vote then on ordinance number 845 on second reading.
Councilor Linville?
Yes.
Councilor West?
Yes.
Council President Ackerval?
Yes.
Mayor Knapp?
Yes, I have 4 in favor unanimously on approving ordinance number 845. Thank you very much. Okay, now that gets us to our public hearing, and we have comparative ordinances here also. I think we can take any testimony pertaining to both. If there is testimony, they'll need to be voted separately. Can we ask for those to be read, please?
Yes. Ordinance number 842 on first reading. An ordinance of the City of Wilsonville annexing approximately 17.57 acres of property located on the west side of Southwest Stafford Road, south of Southwest Frog Pond Lane, into the city limits of the City of Wilsonville, Oregon. The land is more particularly described as tax lots 1500 and 1700. A portion of Southwest Frog Pond Lane right-of-way and a portion of Southwest Stafford Road right-of-way, Section 12D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Clackamas County, Oregon. Walter Remmers, William Ray Morgan, and Janice Ellen Morgan, petitioners. Ordinance number 843 on first reading. An ordinance of the City of Wilsonville approving a zone map amendment from the Clackamas County Rural Residential Farm Forest 5-acre zone to the residential neighborhood zone on approximately 15.93 acres on the west side of Southwest Stafford Road, south of Southwest Frog Pond Lane. The land is more particularly described as tax lot 1500 and 1700, Section 12D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Clackamas County, Oregon, West Hills Development LLC applicant.
Okay, I'm trying to find my script here for which one of these is. Just a moment.
You should, Mayor Knapp, you should have two scripts tonight. You should have the quasi-judicial script, and then for our next public hearing on the supplemental budget, you should have a legislative script. That would be for resolution number 2849.
I do.
Okay.
They're just in an index with 30 other things that we have.
Did you email?
I will call to order a public hearing for Wilsonville City Council with regard to ordinance number 842 and 843 as has been read. Do any members of council wish to abstain, declare a conflict of interest, or report any ex parte contact or any information gained outside of the hearing? Any abstentions? Okay.
No.
Anybody declare anything that they've learned outside the hearing?
No.
No. Okay. Have all members familiarized themselves with the application?
Yes.
Is that a yes from everyone? All right. Thank you. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the participation of any member of council?
Can the attendees use the raise hand feature if they wish to do so?
We have nothing. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
Nobody's raising their hands
All right,
to be
you.
recognized.
Okay. For all those wishing to testify, please be aware that failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford this city council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issues precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the City Council to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria that staff will describe or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which you believe apply to the decision. At this time, we'll ask for staff to present the proposal and list the applicable substantive approval criteria. Following that, any comments needed by the city attorney, then the applicant may make their presentation, and following that, we will ask for general public input from any member of the audience who wishes to speak for, against, or comment in any way. If needed, then we have a chance for the applicant to rebut any information that has been made. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and Governor Brown's order, this meeting is being held remotely. Information regarding how the public could attend this meeting remotely and give testimony was provided by timely written notice published in the Pamplin Media newspaper, formerly the Wilsonville Spokesman, on the city's website and posted at city buildings. Information published to the public explained the options for remote participation and testimony. Notice was also included that testimony could be submitted for the record in advance in writing. If you are listening to this meeting remotely and have not already notified the city recorder that you do wish to testify at the time for public testimony, anyone who is on the call will be muted and asked if they would like to testify. You should respond at that time. For those who respond by stating a desire to testify, you will again be unmuted when your name is called. If you prefer, you may also submit written testimony by email at any time during this meeting by emailing the city recorder at the following email address: cityrecorder@ci.wilsonville.or.us. This email address can also be found published on the city website. Any testimony sent by email will be read into the record. Please include your name and mailing address with your emailed testimony. If you are having difficulties with these instructions, you may call the following number for assistance to gain access to the meeting: 1-312-626-6799 and enter webinar ID number 815-3605-6468 when prompted. Please note that long distance charges may apply. When called upon to testify, state your full name and address for the record. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony that has already been given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Okay. I'm sorry, again, Cindy, Ms. Lux what?
Luxhoy.
Luxhoy, all right, Luxhoy. My apologies.
Okay.
Give us the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Knapp and councilors. My name is Cindy Luxhoy, Associate Planner, and I am here tonight to present for City Council's review an annexation and zone map amendment for the Frog Pond Ridge subdivision. Ordinance numbers are 842 and 843 and zoning order DB 20-8. As required by statute, I would announce that the criteria applicable to the application are stated starting on page 2 of the staff report, which have been entered into the record. And copies of the report are available on the counter at the side of the room, as well as on the city's website. The subject site outlined in red on this slide is located on the east side of Frog Pond west of the Southwest Stafford Road and south of Southwest Frog Pond Lane. The Frog Pond Ridge proposal is for a 71-lot subdivision on the subject property, and this is in line with the Frog Pond West Master Plan that City Council previously approved, which went through a robust public process. This is the 4th subdivision in the Frog Pond West Master Plan area, following Morgan Farm, Stafford Meadows, and Frog Pond Meadows. Approximately 17.57 acres are proposed for annexation, as shown here outlined in red. The property is contiguous to land currently in the city, within the urban growth boundary, and master planned for residential development. The proposed annexation includes all of tax lots 1500 and 1700, as well as a portion of Southwest Frog Pond Lane and Southwest Stafford Road right-of-way, immediately adjacent to the subject property. All property owners and a majority of electors have consented in writing to the annexation. And as a result, City Council is able to move forward with annexing the 2 properties and adjacent right-of-way. The proposed zone map amendment includes 15.93 acres in tax lots 1500 and 1700, which are shown here in red. Concurrent with adoption of the Frog Pond West Master Plan, the city added a new zoning district, residential neighborhood, which is intended for application to the master plan area. The Frog Pond Ridge property is currently zoned rural residential farm forest 5 acre by Clackamas County, and the zone map amendment applies the residential neighborhood zone to the area proposed for subdivision, consistent with this intention. The Development Review Board unanimously approved with conditions the 7 applications listed here on August 31st, 2020. DRB also recommended to City Council adoption of the proposed annexation and zone map amendment. No public testimony was received at the DRB hearing, and no appeals were filed during the appeal period. The proposal meets what was envisioned during the Frog Pond West Master Plan process, with 1 waiver to code requirements related to front yard setback on 3 of the lots. The waiver enables preservation of a 34-inch Oregon white oak in the southwest Willow Creek Drive right-of-way in the southwest part of the subdivision. Highlights of the proposal include that the 71-lot subdivision includes portions of medium lot subdistricts 4 and 5 and small lot subdistrict 6 in the Frog Pond West Master Plan. The type and proposed number of lots fall within the allowed range for each subdistrict. The street layout is generally consistent with the Frog Pond West Master Plan street demonstration plan. with limited variations that still meet connectivity goals of the demonstration plan as required by the code. The proposed street trees are in line with master plan recommendations to create tree-lined streets. Trees will be removed over some of the buildable portions of the site, but key trees are preserved, including a grove of Oregon white oak and ponderosa pine in the subdivision's southeast corner that is maintained as an open space tract, as well as the 34-inch Oregon white oak in the southwest Willow Creek Drive right-of-way. Based on this information, staff recommends approval of the annexation and zone map amendment requests for the Prague Pond Ridge subdivision. And that concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for staff? I'm not seeing any questions at this point. If there are no questions, then maybe we should proceed with next steps. Thank you, Ms. Luxhoy. Next up, is there any comment from City Attorney?
No, I believe the applicant's on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You believe what?
The applicant is on the phone.
The applicant is on the phone, but other than that, I have no comment.
I don't know that.
The applicant is on the phone.
Michael Robinson is on the line.
Are they asking to speak?
Yes.
Okay. The applicant desires
Whenever you're ready for the applicant, Mayor.
I think we are up to that point where we are ready to hear from the applicants.
Thank you, Mayor Knapp, members of the City Council. My name is Michael Robinson. My last name is spelled R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. My mailing address is 1211 Southwest 5th Avenue, Suite 1900, Portland, Oregon, 97204. I'm a land use attorney with the law firm of Schwabe, Williamson & Wyatt, and I represent West Hills Land Development, the applicant. So I'm going to do a very short initial presentation, Mayor, and then turn it over to Lee Alligood. Lee, along with Mike Peoples of OTAC, are the planners and civil engineers for the applicant, and Lee will finish up the applicant's presentation. So, Mayor, I have three short comments. First of all, the applicant agrees with the DRB's unanimous recommendation for approval of the City Council. The applicant also agrees with the Planning Department staff report to the City Council. We appreciate how thorough the staff report was. A lot of information in there, but they presented it well. Secondly, I want to comment briefly on Mr. Pryor's email to you. We agree with the concerns about affordability, but the equitable housing strategic plan is not an approval for this application. Councilor Linville talked about it earlier, and we encourage further discussion of this matter, but it doesn't relate to either of these quasi-judicial applications. The other thing I should say, just so that you're aware of it, is you adopted the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan in June of this year. Our application was submitted in January, and under state law, only those standards in effect on the date you submit are approval standards. So while we encourage the discussion about affordability, we think it's important. I've looked at the document. I think it's an impressive document. This is not something that's relevant to the approval criteria in tonight's two hearings. And lastly, we hope that you'll follow the DRB's recommendation and approve both applications. Lee and I are here to answer your questions, so before you close tonight's hearing, if there are questions of the applicant, please let us know. Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor Knapp and councilors. My name is Lee Alligood, and Mike introduced me along with the rest of our team. I'm a land use planner with OTAC, and I am presenting on behalf of the applicant as the applicant's representative. I did want to say that, as Mike mentioned, everyone he described us here, we have our civil engineer as well as the applicant themselves, if any questions come up for that. I did have a presentation initially, but after Cindy presented such a thorough overview of the project, I wanted to just provide a couple of comments and then give it the opportunity to ask any questions. So one thing Cindy mentioned is that this is the fourth subdivision in Prague Pond West, and it's also the third subdivision by the applicant West Hills Land Development. So we're all really excited to expand the area that they're working in at this time. As Cindy also mentioned, the DRB has approved the other applications, so we're just here for the annexation and zone change, which feels pretty straightforward. But as I mentioned, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant, either representative of the applicant on the issues at hand? I'm seeing nobody anxious to ask a question at this point in time. Why don't we proceed then to see if there's any public input on this question, and applicant will be given a chance to respond subsequently if there are things that they want to do so. Do we have any public, member of the public that would like to testify on ordinance 842 or 843?
Yes, Mr. Garrett Pryor is in the lobby virtually.
Okay.
And there he is.
All right, can you hear?
Yes.
Good evening.
All right. Good evening, Garrett Pryor here, Wilsonville resident, and I'll ask you to defer action on ordinances 842 and 843 tonight to allow for some more additional policy and affordability analysis to be completed with the application. The land use attorney for the applicant was correct that there are regulatory limitations on what can be considered in this application, and I do see this application eventually being approved because it meets those legal requirements. But as a point for our city to understand how policy works down into the granules working of government, the most legislative processes such as the subdivision, we need to ask questions of affordability, of policy at each one of those levels. And so I think even if this is done before the second reading of this, or if we can just delay it for another meeting to first reading, I think that is needed to where we can see some of the differences or divides between our current policy aspirations that were adopted in the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan and where our current regulations are at. Just a few pieces that jumped out to me in that, our Equitable Housing Strategic Plans mentions Frog Pond 78 times, and has a specific action to look at affordability and zoning analysis. Also referred to in this analysis is a housing needs analysis that was done in 2014, when we also had additional numbers run in 2019, another housing needs analysis for the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan. And so I just want to make sure we're using the best data as well and the most current data that we have when we're analyzing affordability and making, trying to determine what's needed housing in Wilsonville. I want to make sure those are done at the most updated numbers. So again, I'll ask you to defer action on that. I understand the regulatory limitations of it, but I think there can be a different additional analysis done that can help inform our longer term work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would like to testify on ordinance 842 or 843?
If you do, please use the raised hand feature in Zoom. Michael Robinson would like to speak.
Mayor, I just want to speak.
Representing the applicant, right?
He can,
when
yes,
you're ready
he's
for
the
applicant's
applicant.
rebuttal, Mayor.
Yeah. I guess, I wanted to kind of ask a question of staff. Mr. Pryor suggested that it might be appropriate to do some comment on the items that he is referencing out of the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan prior to second reading. Does staff see an avenue there, or is that look different to staff?
You want to comment on any legal issues on that?
I think from a protocol perspective, and I'll be happy to chime in, but I think you should allow the applicant to address that because it's the applicant's timeline. And the applicant is correct, his application does precede this, and I believe all of those references to Frog Pond that are in the plan, and the planning staff can correct me, it's really looking to the next phase of Frog Pond and not the current phase of Frog Pond.
South and east.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that's an appropriate delay to place on this applicant, but I'll let the applicant speak to that. Or we should let the applicant speak.
That would be appropriate. So we have no other member of the public wishing to testify at this point?
Dan Pauly raised his hand.
Staff, we have staff wanting to speak. Dan Pauly? No other?
No.
No, I don't think staff should be weighing in. I think the applicant should.
I would let the applicant speak if then, yeah.
And if you have questions of staff after.
I was asking if there was any other.
No, so what we have, Mayor, is Mr. Pauly.
Public.
Mr. Pauly was asking to be recognized. I don't recommend we do that, but if you have questions of staff after you hear from the applicant, we will certainly be available to answer any questions.
But there are no other members.
There are no other members of the public, though.
That was what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much. Mr. Robinson, would you like to make any additional comments?
I would, Mayor. Thank you. Again, this is Michael Robinson on behalf of the applicant as rebuttal. I appreciate what Mr. Pryor has asked for, but here's the problem. There's no reason, there's no basis for deferring an action on this application tonight. If the equitable housing study were relevant to an approval criterion, actually, we would have already done the work and your staff would have already done the work. But the problem is there's nothing to analyze in the context of the approval of these two applications because it's not relevant to the approval criteria. It doesn't mean that we're not concerned about affordability. It doesn't mean Mr. Pryor's point is not a good one. All the applicant would say to the council is it's misplaced to try and shoehorn it into this application. And as Ms. Luxley said, you've got a 120-day clock running, and if you defer it, it's going to be without an extension of the clock because it's not relevant to the approval criteria. So we want to be helpful. We want to be cooperative. We appreciate what Mr. Pryor is saying. We agree with him. But the disconnect, as I think he acknowledges, it has nothing to do with this application. If you actually look at the strategic plan, it's a call for action. In other words, it's a call for the city to conduct a legislative review of its code. It's not meant to act as a quasi-judicial approval criteria. So, Mayor, that's all I have. I think you should act on it tonight because deferring the decision for 2 weeks won't add anything to your to the review of the approval criteria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any additional information staff would like us to hear?
I think Mr. Robinson summarized it well. I think it's appropriate to go forward tonight.
I think we're available to answer any questions you have, if you have any, Mayor. Otherwise, we will leave it where it's at.
Okay. All right. Council, any questions that you would like answers to? From staff or applicant? I'm seeing none. So absent somebody telling me that they're not ready, I think I'm ready to close the public hearing. Anybody feel differently than that? I will close public hearing at this time and ask council, what is your pleasure with regard, first of all, to ordinance number 842, the annexation piece of this?
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 482 on first reading.
Number what?
842.
Oh, 842. I think I said that. Thank you. Yes, I meant 842.
Okay, let's be clear there. Motion by Councilor West. Is there a second? Councilor President Ackerball seconds.
I'll second.
Discussion? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I agree with both Mr. Pryor and I agree with the applicant as well. I only bring up the discussion about the applicability of congruence with our policy with Resolution 2820, our Equitable Housing Strategic Plan, and the affordability analysis as it relates to future developments. I recognize that this development falls under an already approved master plan and that the applicant's submission was prior to the implementation of our resolution. I guess I'm not trying to in any way suggest that we delay the decision, but I am suggesting that, we talk about affordability and we as a council approved all of those actions that were included in that Equitable Housing Strategic Plan. And I am just wondering how that translates to how we get to this point with any kind of a request that would come to the council, either through the DRB, through the Planning Commission, or to the council. And I don't see a clear path for that. And maybe with this application, it is not appropriate for us to be looking for that. I just think that it's good for us to put that forward and say we need to be mindful of our own policy directions. And if we are really concerned about affordability and we're concerned about housing density, as we seem to say, then we need to take the opportunities to figure out how does that translate into our processes for approval. And so as Mr. Robinson said, if it was in place, then, perhaps then we would be asking, where is the congruence with that policy? How does this project relate to our policy, accepted policy? So I think Mr. Pryor's point is a good one for us to bring up. I think it's a good one for us to have some discussion about. I don't believe that it warrants that we would not move this zoning and annexation decision forward. But I would like to see how, with staff and with our planning staff, how are we going to take our equitable strategic housing plan and then put it up against developments as we begin to look at them at all the different levels?
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilor West.
I appreciate Mr. Pryor's input on these equitable housing issues, as he has been passionate about this and really enriched the conversation. I echo what Councilor Linville has just spoke to. I do believe, though, that it is clear that the applicant meets the requirements for their application. Businesses need certainty, and they've already gone through that long process to move forward. And I think it's essential that we don't act retroactively towards the business. And I think that time is of the essence when they do these developments, and the process that has been followed as it was laid out to them, and those guidelines and rules should be respected. And it doesn't seem to add anything actually to the approval criteria as the applicant stated. So for that reason, I do not support deferring the project further.
Thank you. Councilor Akval, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate Councilor Linville's comments, and I agree with a lot of what she's saying here. I don't, the question that's ahead of us right now is, approval of this project. And I think that Councilor Linville's comments are looking at, okay, we have that decision, which, you know, we've had some discussion on, but also how can we sharpen our processes going forward, and look at ways to make sure that our equitable housing strategic plan is really brought to fruition. And so that's ongoing work, and I certainly appreciate our community members tonight, Mr. Pryor, bringing that up and asking that question, because that is ongoing and continuous work of council to look at that. So I guess I appreciate all the contributions to this discussion. I see us moving forward in a way that's going to make things better for the city as a whole. And we have some ideas on how that might be able to happen. But the decision tonight, looking specifically at does this application meet the requirements that had previously been established? If we're looking at that, then I do believe it meets the criteria that has been established. But that does not, I guess, diminish the interest in you know, bringing more information going forward. So.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Is there a motion with regard to ordinance number 842?
I think we already had a motion. This was our discussion.
My motion.
You already have that.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm getting lost here. We're in the discussion phase on a motion and a second. Anything further for discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. This is on first reading, and so we can do a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to approve ordinance number adopt ordinance number 842, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. I see 4 positive votes. That then brings us to ordinance number 843, which is the companion zoning ordinance pertaining to the action we just took on annexation. Is there a motion with regard to ordinance number 843?
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 843 in first reading.
Thank you. We should adopt an ordinance probably. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Council President Akval, second. Is there discussion? A motion to adopt ordinance number 843. We've had quite a bit of discussion already. If there's no further discussion desired, I will ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance number 843, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
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 I see 4 positive votes, so that is unanimous in favor. Yes, 843 is adopted. Thank you very much. I think that Mr. Robinson and Ms. Alligood can proceed with their work.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, let's see. We are up to resolution number 2849.
Resolution number 2849, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Thank you. And we have staff presentation on this.
Mr. Katko.
Yes, my name is Keith
Your Honor, before Mr. Katko starts, in your email you have the public hearing script for this item.
Yes, I do. Shall we read it now? I guess I should read it now.
Yeah, it should be the legislative public hearing.
It's right, the first item in your email.
That's the same one we just used, right?
No, the last one was quasi-judicial. This one should be legislative. You don't have to disclose ex-party contacts or any of that stuff.
Well, that's confusing because the one I'm reading says legislative and it goes through the conflict of interest items.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Your Honor, at 8:08, there's an email.
8:08 p.m. You should have received an email from Ms. Valise.
8:08 p.m. Okay. Yes. All right. It's on my phone and the type is small, but let me try here. All right. I will call to order Wilsonville City Council. Public hearing on resolution, and I lost it because I jumped to the other thing here. On resolution number 2849, have we read it? Did we read it by title or did we read the whole thing?
I read it.
I think she already read it. It was very quick. It was just a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing. The hearing will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their report. Then we will receive testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. Due to COVID-19 pandemic and the Governor Brown's order, this meeting is being held remotely. Information regarding how the public could attend the meeting remotely and give testimony was provided by the timely written notice published in the Pamplin Media newspaper, formerly the Wilsonville Spokesman, on the city's website and posted at city buildings. Information published to the public explained the option for remote participation and testimony. Notice was also included that testimony could be submitted for the record in advance in writing. If you are listening to this meeting remotely and have not already notified the city recorder that you wish to testify, at the time for public testimony, anyone who is on the call will be unmuted and asked if they would like to testify. You should respond at that time. For those who respond by stating a desire to testify, you will again be unmuted when your name is called. If you prefer, you may also submit written testimony by email at any time during this meeting by emailing the city recorder at the following email address: cityrecorder@ ci.wilsonville.or.us. This email address can also be found published on the city website. Any testimony sent by email will be read into the record. Please include your name and mailing address with your email testimony. If you are having difficulties with these instructions, you may call the following number for assistance to gain access to the meeting. That number is 1-312-626-6799 and enter webinar ID number 815-3605-6468 when prompted. Please note that long distance charges may apply. When called up to testify, state your full name and address for the record. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given to council. Simply indicating you agree with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Mr. Katko.
Hello, my name is Keith Katko, Assistant City Finance Director. So this is a $7.6 million budget supplemental adjustment for council's review, which requires a public hearing notice. Notice of the hearing was published in the Spokesman on September 16th, and which is detailed in the staff report and in the resolution. 7.1 million of this supplemental is for the rollover of capital improvement budgets not completed during the fiscal year 2019-20 cycle, but continue into this fiscal year. This requested rollovers do not increase the overall project costs as detailed in the adopted budget document. It's just an issue of timing. Also included are 3 non-rollover requests, $200,000 in CARES COVID-related funding for for the ongoing COVID response, and that is funded through the city's $1.1 million CARES grant. Additionally, there's $26,000 for a remote operated slope mower, and that is split between the roads fund and the storm fund. And finally, there's $252,212 for design work related to the expansion of the smart fleet facility, which is covered 80-20 by a federal grant, with match expected to be covered by the STIF, the State of Oregon transit funds. And the overarching goal of this project is to provide a shovel-ready project to apply for an FTA competitive construction grant down the line for future consideration. So that is the budget supplemental for tonight.
Thank you. The vast majority of it is project work that was contemplated but not completed last year.
Correct.
Council, any questions for staff? Councilor President Ackerval, please.
Kind of a small point, but what is a slope mower?
It's
this was a new term for me.
well, what it is that we have some pretty severe slopes that we have to mow. We don't really have a piece of equipment that we can do it safely with. So this basically, it's got articulating axles, as I understand it, so that you can remotely operate the mower and you don't need a staff person to actually be on the slope. So from an employee safety standpoint, it's much improved over what we're doing now.
Okay, well, good. So it's a new term and a new, I guess, practice for me, ways of mowing. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Councilor Linville.
I just have a question, Mr. Katko, about the rollover funds. Are they all anticipated to be spent, or are these monies that are going to go back into particular budgets?
Well, they're anticipated to be spent for CIP projects in this current fiscal year, to the extent that there's time, and they're anticipated to be spent this current fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? If not, I think I will move forward to public testimony. Is there any member of the public that would like to testify with regard to Resolution 2849?
No.
Nobody online, nobody present?
Neither.
Nobody raising their hand? If that is the case, I'm ready to close the hearing unless anyone feels that we need to keep it open. I will close the public testimony or close the public hearing at this point in time and ask council, what is your pleasure with regard to resolution number 2849? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2849.
Thank you. From motion by Councilor Linville, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor West. Thank you very much. Any discussion? In way of discussion, I would only say that we're in challenging times and we hope to get all these projects moving. In fact, I think there is a supportable argument that says that in the economic difficulties of COVID, that we see many private sector businesses pulling back and not investing and not moving forward. And where we have funding available and are on solid ground, it may behoove the public sector to do even more than they might have otherwise done to get the economy moving through employing people and moving capital improvement projects forward when we have that capability. I think many of these will fall into that kind of description, so I'm hopeful that we will see completion through the coming year on many of these. Anything else? If not, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve resolution number 2849, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
I see 4 in favor, no opposition. Therefore, we have unanimous vote in favor of adoption, approval of 2849. Thank you, Mr. Katko. That brings us then to our city manager reports.
I don't have anything major, Mayor. I just wanted to report that you're aware that we did have to close many of our city facilities due to hazardous air quality. If you're interested, we do have one of the air filters that we saved as a reminder as to why we needed to do that. If you ever want to stop by and either smell it or look at it, it will confirm what we knew here Thursday when we had our last council meeting, when you could see smoke in the air here. I did want to report that we had our first report today of an actual positive COVID-19 for one of our staff members. So we're obviously thinking about that person, but it also caused us to kind of jump on top of our protocols around 3 o'clock today to make sure that we were doing the cleaning and notifications that we need to do for staff. I just wanted to let you know, because you'll probably hear about it at some point, just to report that out to you.
Yeah. Do we facilitate contact tracing then to, within our organization and help that?
What we do is once we get the report, Clackamas County takes over at that point. They have all the contact tracers, so they will be contacting staff. I think they have 24 hours to do all that contact tracing. And I know that is in motion as we speak.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
All right. Anything else from City Attorney?
No, Your Honor, nothing.
All right. Anything else council feels we need to deal with tonight? We do have an urban renewal meeting upcoming on the budget items. If not, I will call us adjourned at 8:49 p.m. on our council meeting. Does anyone need a break before we enter the urban renewal meeting? It should be fairly brief. Does staff need to change their recording?
No, but Your Honor, I just wanted to let you know that your next email there, you'll see the URA public hearing script in your email as well.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. It's kind of garbled and not very clear.
Let me articulate, because she's wearing a mask. You will have an email that just arrived in your inbox that will have your public hearing script for the URA public hearing.
Thank you. I can hardly wait to read another of these long scripts.
No, he needs to.
We did?
Yeah, oh yeah, you did at 8:49. He can call the other one to order though, and I can read the consent.
Give me just a second here. All right, here it is. So, we'll call to order Wilsonville, City of Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency meeting for September 21, 2020 at 8:51 p.m. and request a roll call, please.
Board Member Linville.
Present.
Board Member West.
Present.
Board Member Ackerval.
Here.
Chair Knapp.
Here. We have an absent member also, that Ms. Lehan. So first item up is citizen input, which is an opportunity for visitors to address the Urban Renewal Agency on things not on the agenda. Also a time to address items that are on the agenda but not scheduled for public hearing. Staff and the board will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizen input before tonight's meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. We do request people limit their comments to 3 minutes. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak?
We have none, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Could we have the consent agenda read, please?
Minutes of the July 20, 2020 URA meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion on consent? Ms. Linville.
Your Honor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Akkerval seconds. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. See 4 positive votes. It's unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to public hearing URA resolution number 310. If I could ask for that to be read.
Urban Renewal Agency Resolution Number 310, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2020-2021.
I'm not sure I've got the right. It's not a council.
It should be the same exact script as the legislative hearing that you did for the supplemental budget for city council.
Okay. What's our resolution number?
It's 310, URA 310.
Three screens here. None of them have the resolution. Again, 310?
Yes.
310.
310, thank you. Okay. Call to order the Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency public hearing on URA resolution number 310 as has been read. Ladies and gentlemen, the Urban Renewal Agency will be taking public testimony tonight at a public hearing. The hearing will be conducted as follows. First, staff will present their report. Then we will receive testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and Governor Brown's order, this meeting is being held remotely. Information regarding how the public could attend this meeting remotely and give testimony was provided by timely written notice published in the Pamplin Media newspaper, formerly the Wilsonville Spokesman, on the city's website and posted at city buildings. Information published to the public explained the option for remote participation and testimony. Notice was also included that testimony could be submitted for the record in advance in writing. If you are listening to this meeting remotely and have not already notified the city recorder that you wish to testify at the time for public testimony, anyone who is on the call will be unmuted and asked if they would like to testify. You should respond at that time. For those who respond by stating a desire to testify, you will again be unmuted when your name is called. If you prefer, you may also submit written testimony by email at any time during this meeting by emailing the city recorder at the following email address: cityrecorder@ci.wilsonville.or.us. This email address can also be found published on the city website. Any testimony sent by email will be read into the record. Please include your name and mailing address with your email testimony. If you are having difficulties with these instructions, you may call the following number for assistance and to gain access to the meeting. That number is 1-312-626-6799 and enter webinar ID number 815-3605 6468 when prompted. Please note that long-distance charges may apply. When called up to testify, state your full name and address for the record. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony that has already been given to the Urban Renewal Agency. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient.
That's a lot of information for nobody
We
looking
have
to
a staff
testify.
presentation.
Okay, Keith Katko, Assistant Finance Director. This is a $2.2 million budget supplemental for the board's review, just 2 projects, which requires a public hearing prior to approval. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Spokesman on 9/16/2020, and which is detailed in the staff report as well as the resolution. It is for 2 projects, CIP 4196, which is the 5th Street Kinsman project, and CIP 4201, which is the Garden Acres Road project. So that is the extent of the supplemental for your review. And these are rollover from fiscal year 2019-20. They do not increase the overall cost of the project.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that would like to testify?
We have no one.
Please, since I had to read all that, would somebody please testify?
I'll thank you for a fine job of reading all that information, Mayor.
Yeah, okay. No member of the public to testify?
No.
Public hearing and ask the board, what is your pleasure with regard to URA resolution number, and I just lost it.
310.
310. Ms. Ackervall.
Okay, I move to approve URA resolution number 310.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Ackervall. Is there a second? Ms. Linville?
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Motion and a second. And I've completely lost my third screen here.
Discussion.
Oh, I don't know where it went. Any discussion?
Nope.
No need for discussion. I'll ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve resolution number 310, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
I see 4 in favor, making it unanimous. Thank you very much. That brings us then to resolution number 309, I believe.
There's another one?
Nope, that's it. That's all we have for you tonight in URA, Mayor.
And why does my...
It was on the minutes.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to do it?
You already approved the consent agenda, so we're good.
That was on the consent agenda? Okay. All right. It's further business for the Urban Renewal Agency?
None.
If not, I'm going to declare us adjourned 9:00 p.m.
We'll see you all on October 5th. Good night.
Take care.